Hi, my name is Julianna Sikes, and I'm a proud and out LGBTQ school leader. So I'm actually going into my 24th year in education. Pretty much all my career has been in public education. And I got my start teaching in upstate New York. And I began teaching at a time when there was no job protection for LGBTQ educators. At the same time, I was also very active in my community. I was volunteering and supporting and mentoring LGBTQ youth on the weekends. I was involved in several LGBTQ organizations in Rochester, New York, where I was living. And I had to learn pretty quickly when I began teaching to really kind of keep those pieces quiet. And it was a choice on my part because I really love the field of education, yet I knew I was entering into a time when I had no job protection. So to remain in my position, I really made this choice to, kind of live, one part of my life as an educator and not being out on the job, and another part being very, very active and contributing to my community. And then what began to happen was I had teachers that would see me as a resource and come to me and go, can you share with me, any contacts of people that may be able to help LGBTQ youth? My child's in the process of coming out. Do you have any articles or resources I might be able to read? And so this would kind of happen as I was teaching. And I really began to see that, by not being out, I was really doing a disservice to myself and to my colleagues by not being my authentic self on my job. When I began my administrative career, that switched somewhat. Not my first day though on the job. Unfortunately, my very first administrative position as a vice principal, the first day on the job, two teachers came to my principal and were visibly upset about me. And they said to my principal, do you see who you've hired? And they really wanted my principal to do something about it. They were uncomfortable with me being queer and being a VP on the school site. And that was a painful experience, not just for me, but for my principal, because it was the first time he was confronted with homophobia at the school site, and he honestly had no idea how to tackle it. I continued to work at that school site, made a lot of contributions, and the staff came to know me for who I was, and really loved me and loved the work that I did. After that position, I was very fortunate to work in a school district that was doing some really powerful work around equity. That was in San Leandro Unified, and I worked with an administrative team where a majority of the team were LGBTQ leaders, and it was really my first experience of having that integration of not having to kind of keep separate what I did outside of education and kind of have sort of another sort of separate experience within education, but I could really kind of integrate things. And I would say kind of what's important for others to know is the field of education has rapidly changed, certainly within this year. And policies and laws have definitely caught up where, we have job protection, at least here in the state of California. And we have a lot more supports and policies in place to both protect and help LGBTQ educators as well as students. My current role as a director of teacher intern programs, I am out and proud, and I'm a huge advocate and a supporter for both my teacher candidates and for students, and also for educators in the field to really be their authentic and out selves. I spend a good deal of time in our courses when our interns first start taking coursework. I'm really sharing with them important, relevant school policies and laws that are set up to protect and support LGBTQ youth so that they really understand their role as educators and how they deliver the spirit of the work in creating and maintaining healthy environments for all students. Here in California, what's exciting is that, we have, policies and laws that support LGBTQ educators, yet I think sometimes practices have not yet caught up. And it really does require us to be out and visible and do advocacy work. The system is not going to change on its own. We need to be part of the change force to really make it so that schools are reflective of and supportive of all staff, all stakeholders that come into our school buildings. And what I would say in terms of challenges is like, I'm working with teacher candidates. These are people coming into the field of education. And for many of them, they don't know a time when there wasn't protection in place for LGBTQ people. So when I come and I present to them and say, let me tell you a little bit about what the history of education has been like in the state of California, and really pertinent policies such as Seth's Law or Success for All Student Act, or even letting them know about the Briggs Initiative that was passed, almost passed in the 70s, that would have made it illegal for gay and lesbian educators to work in this field. And they're completely surprised, right? Like they can't wrap their head around it. And so what I would say is that we need to make sure that people understand kind of historically what the historical forces are that have shaped the field of education in our respective states. And we also need to ensure that our educators coming into schools are well received and that there are supports in place for them. And so some of the things I talk with our newer teachers about are, and some of the things that I think that could definitely help human resource departments are, well, let's look at your school forms. Are they, do you have binary gender on school forms when you're onboarding employees, or do you have male, female, non-binary, trans, declined to state? Like, how inclusive are forms? So that's one huge piece. Another piece would be really helping staff understand languaging, right? The use of honorific titles and the use of pronouns that match one's gender identity and one's expression, right? And not assuming that. So we spent some time doing some education around that. And what I say to my teacher candidates is it's not just for us as staff, but this is what we want to have for our students as our students are entering into our classrooms, right? That our students are well received and they know that they're in a safe space to learn. Being out and visible and really sharing with our teacher candidates about some of these policy pieces is that it has come back and been a game changer for our candidates. Last summer, I had one of my candidates send me an email and said, I didn't share this with you, but I'm a transgender woman and I'm wondering if you'd be comfortable writing me a letter of recommendation. It's not often I meet another queer educator. And I wrote her a letter of recommendation. She ended up getting a position as a math teacher at a school district in the Bay Area, and just super thrilled for her. And, I thought that was awesome. And then it's like, it continues to happen. I've got another candidate that, this year was like, it's not often I meet another non-binary educator. It's great to know I have a source of support in the field. And so, for me, historically coming from a place in education where I didn't have job protection and I wasn't able to be out as a teacher, to now standing in a place and going, you know what, this is what we need to do. This is what I need to do so that my teachers can go out and do their very best job and get into school districts and be a role model, be the best educator that they can be for our students. That's why I make that move. Honestly, I would say my family, my mom is just a huge source of support. She was extremely supportive when several years ago I said, Mom, I want to have a conversation with you about pronouns, and I want to let you know a little bit about myself and my gender identity. I'm non-binary. I've changed my driver's license. This is who I am. And it's kind of like the tears were flowing, and she just was a huge advocate. And every time I tell her a story of how I'm helping reshape public education by being who I am and by being authentic at work, it kind of feeds that support and just gives us both strength, gives my family unit strength that they can see someone, maybe taking a risk, but more so standing in their authentic self and doing what we need to do in education. The other part I would add is I would say that my supervisor here, our executive director, has just been a great source of support as well, and really just encouraging me to be my authentic self. She's been great. 2 years ago for my birthday, she made me a rainbow unicorn cake. It was hilarious. So it's just been, we have a lot of fun. And I think that, it's one of those pieces where we really have to look at the contributions that LGBTQ folks have made culturally, not just to the field of education, but, in so many areas. And it's like, we have a richness to really share and bring to others. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I'm out and visible. And then I'd say like a third piece of support is I have a colleague that works at the California Department of Ed that oversees the health curriculum for the entire state. And, that person is out, she's who she is, and she's a tremendous advocate for health of students. And, seeing someone in that position do the job that she does makes me go, I can be in my position and I can do the job that I do because our students deserve it. And bottom line, education deserves it. So, I knew at a very young age that I was queer, and probably when I was 5. I just didn't have the language for it. And I finally came out, to my friends when I was 16 and to my family when I was 17. And again, if you can kind of think back to like late 80s, 90s, that was, I don't want to say like unusual, but it wasn't, a time when it was okay to kind of be out. And I was who I was. I went to the prom with my girlfriend, and my family has always been very supportive of me. I think I was very fortunate in that respect. That doesn't mean that kind of my coming out journey was without homophobia or without challenge, but my immediate, my family of origin has been very supportive and continues to be very supportive of who I am. And one of the, I think, most powerful pieces was that I have an uncle who is gay, who came out, pre-Stonewall. And by me being out, when I came out to him, he had the strength to actually come out to his mom, to my grandmother. And I just always held that story with me that, it's always a risk, yet when we're able to stand in our full authenticity and be who we are, we make it possible for others to be who they are. First of all, I was so excited to see the start of this organization. I had been working with a colleague in Southern California through the Association of California School Administrators and looking at having a Northern California LGBTQ administrator group. And when I saw this come through, I was like, this is fantastic. I'm all in. It's been great to network with other LGBTQ educational leaders across the nation and to see people in all different roles. So anywhere from school principals, VPs, to folks at the university, to folks, at Department of Ed. And I think that what it really does for me, and I think what it can do collectively for education, is to go look at the collective impact that we have. Collectively, we're a group, right? We're a group that can make some pretty significant and powerful change, and we can do so much more together than in isolated groups. I'd still love to have a Northern California LGBTQ administrator group, though. So folks watching this, if you're out there, let's network. And again, I just think it's a really powerful tool where we can learn from each other and we can support each other. I guess like what else I want to say in terms of like in my education practice, not only do I, work full time for Davis Joint Unified, directing a teacher intern program, but I also do some work through UC Berkeley and coaching school leaders. And one of the themes that comes up is really about identity within school leadership. And I think that, the group through NASSP really helps us be in our identity as LGBTQ school leaders and reflect that and support that out with the different groups that we work with. So again, just a lot of appreciation for the formation of the group and really, really excited to contribute and see where we go and grow.